We are going to give ourselves a few more minutes to wait for other colleagues to join. So bear with us. Let's give ourselves probably 3 more minutes as we wait for other people to join. Thank you. By saying that we have a French interpretation. So please, if you are French speaking, be sure to get down to the globe sign on your Zoom, and you will be able to see, click that, the icon will bring you different languages, and then you should be able to choose French as we start this meeting. Let me know if you can hear me. In case, if you can hear me, kindly type 1 in the chat, then I should be able to proceed. Okay, good, thank you. Thank you. All right, so again, once again, you're very welcome. And I would start with taking us through a few housekeeping rules that we want to follow. I have been projecting them already, but just to re-echo them for our own good as we start this meeting. Okay, sorry. So this session is being recorded, and we assume that your attendance is consent for this recording, and thank you. So later on, after this, presentation, after this session, we are going to share the recording, but we shall also share a number of other materials, including the slides, with you on email, on Slack, but also on the group WhatsApp, the eLearning Community of Practice group WhatsApp. And in case you have not joined any of those, please feel free to send us a message, even today, but even on email. We shall add you on Slack, on email, but also on WhatsApp. We usually give a certificate of attendance. So in case really you would want this certificate, we encourage you to take a survey. There is a very short survey that we give at the end of this session, and we shall share a link for this survey. It takes less than 5 minutes. And after that, we shall be able to give you that certificate. The information we get through that is very important for us and for us as a community, because there are a number of questions we ask that would help us to better these sessions moving forward. We also request you to register your attendance. Later on, colleagues will share a link in the chat. Please open the link and register yourself so that we are able to know who attended and follow up with you. And this data, again, is very important for the betterment of these sessions later on. And once again, I should mention that we have French interpretation, and in case you need to switch to French, when you go down the line, you will see a globe icon written on interpretation. Once you click it, it will bring a number of languages. Then you are able to choose French or English. But I should mention one change. One of our speakers today, I think the first one will be speaking French. So the English speaking team, from the word go, once he starts, it is advisable that you go to that globe icon and change to English, because he will be speaking French. Thank you very much. So having said that, I want to request any members that have joined us for the first time and you have not introduced yourself before, please open your mic and introduce yourself in less than a minute, your name and the institution where you're coming from, and we are happy to have you. The rest of the team members, we may not, you would introduce yourself in the chat, but those who have come in for the first time, please open the mic and introduce yourself just in less than a minute. Then we should be able to start. Thank you. And over to you, colleagues.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kagarama Juvenal, Country Manager, Rwanda. Happy to be here with you all. Thank you.
Thanks, Doctor. Thank you. Any other? Patrick? Any other person who would want to introduce themselves?
Yes, please. I'm Dr. Chuck Stellangon. I'm the consultant for the APA project, AFROHUN Cameroon.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Very welcome. Any other person? All right. Okay, the other persons will introduce themselves as we move along in the chat room. Okay. So allow me to invite Richard, who is going to take us through the next part, the agenda, and introduce broadly the topic, today's interesting topic. Over to you, Richard.
Yeah, thank you so much, Christine. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, so good evening and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 9th session of the AFROHUN Virtual Community of Practice sessions. Today, our agenda is very brief. We shall have a case study presentation from Mr. Desiree Mbogo. Then we shall have a subject matter expert didactic discussion, then a question and answer session, and then announcements at the end. So we shall have an opportunity to discuss. The topic today that we're going to discuss is online tools that enhance e-learning and learner experience. Now, many times we put online courses online and put content online, but forget the interactivity and participation of learners. Or sometimes we tie ourselves to the discussion forums only, so if you're using Moodle platform. But there are quite a number of tools online that can help to serve the same purpose. You can enhance learner participation and experience using very many tools online outside the learning management system, outside the discussion forums that we know, and maybe the chats. So today, the session is going to introduce us to some of those tools, and we think it is part one. We shall also have another part where more tools will be introduced. And so we look forward to a very, very interesting and practical session. So that is our session flow. And as usual, we begin our sessions with a case study to kind of like set the pace for the discussion that we're going to have. And our case study today is going to be presented by Mr. Desiree Mbogo from the Catholic University of Central Africa, that's in Cameroon. He's a coordinator of the license in management, audit and control, and the preparatory class for management studies at the Faculty of Social Sciences and Management, the Department of Economics, Management and Information Systems. He has some online courses. So he's going to set the pace by presenting the case study in the next few minutes. So allow me at this minute to invite my friend and colleague, Mr. Mbogo Desiree. Yes, over to you, Desiree.
Merci et bon après-midi.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone.
J'espère que je suis suivi.
I hope you are hearing me. I hope everyone is following what I'm saying.
Desiree Mbogo, comme Madame.
I am Desiree Mbogo, like our colleague has just said. I am from the Catholic University of Central Africa, where I am the coordinator of the Bachelor of Management, Audit, Control, but also the preparatory class for the management studies in the Faculty of Economics and Management at Yaoundé, Cameroon. I have been asked to present a case study for this session a case study which talks about online tools which improve the online learning and experiences of the learners. So I'm going to talk to you about the experience of the Catholic University in Central Africa. This presentation, which I'm going to make, is going to be divided into 3 parts. I am going to talk to you about the context in which online learning was started in Central Africa. Then after that, I'll talk about the challenges in the second part, the major challenges which we face. And the third and last part, I will talk about some questions that need to be answered when a person is preparing to teach online or learn online. The context of Université Catholique has already been explained to you, because this is an institution, a university, a tertiary institution, a university that was created by the bishops of the sub-region, the Central African sub-region. It was created by the headquarters in Vatican in collaboration with the Cameroonian government. So, during the time of COVID-19, teachers were obliged to put their courses online urgently in order to respect the SOPs that had been put across by the Cameroonian government. The Catholic University already had a small experience about online learning through the Moodle platform. Most of the lecturers did not have the necessary skills to teach online. Specifically, they did not know how to make the students participate, how to discipline them in terms of the time, and then attending lectures. Did not know how to help them do the exercises and the guided work, and also to assess them. So they did not have those skills. So what they did was to put all their documents in LMS and the virtual classes through the tool, the Zoom tool. And this was done just accidentally. Therefore, this very short step helped us to come up with the necessary challenges, to identify the necessary challenges that were supposed to be averted. One of the major challenges was that of reducing the volume of applications which are put on LMS, so that those documents can be easily exploited by the learners who happen to be the target. The second major challenge was that of improving the experience of teachers or tutors together with the learners online, because in that context, at the Catholic University, it was like dipping in the water, in the deep waters. So we just started accidentally without preparing. So these are the major challenges that I can talk about, which we need to think about while talking about online teaching and learning. This leads us to the questions that I'm asking the participants and myself as well. The first question is that what are the online tools that can be used to improve online learning and teaching, as well as the experience of teaching online at all levels. The next question is linked to the first one. It is related to the first one. How do we mobilize those tools once identified? And then the last question is that what are the constraints that an institution, an organization must be aware of, or in order to use the tools for online teaching and learning. I think in the matters of the Catholic University, that is what I managed to come up and present in this session, in this 9th session. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I hope you followed me very well.
Yes, we have. Thank you so much, Desiree, for that kind of like basis or foundation for our discussion today. What are the tools that can enhance online learning, and probably how can we manage them, and what challenges can come with those tools? Now, I don't know that any member of the audience has one comment, because we have one comment about the case. Do you need any clarity? Do you need to reaffirm? Any member of the community, if you have any point that you want us to clarify regarding that case, we can gladly request Desiree to clarify if you want something to be clarified about the case. Maybe you can raise the hand or type in the chat. Okay, so I think the case is clear. Maybe I'll, at this juncture, like to request the subject matter expert to do a kind of like validation of the case. By way of introduction, maybe I can introduce our subject matter expert at this point. She's Dr. Kim Welch from Arizona State University. She's a lecturer there. She's in the Department of Innovation and Emerging Initiatives. She's an instructional designer, an expert who has taught fully online, hybrid and fixed classroom classes for a long time in both English and French, and in higher education. And she taught her first fully online course in 2006. Her role now is to train faculty from several African countries, Lebanon and Costa Rica, as they move to online platforms. And she loves interaction and engagement, especially because it helps to see the brain of participants. So she's really an expert. She's a practitioner. She's a scholar in online learning. So Dr. Kim, I would like to welcome you to, first of all, validate the case. Over to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Richard. And thank you, Desiree, for explaining so well the things that happened during COVID at the university. So this is helpful. I'd like to see in the chat, if you're comfortable typing in the chat, if your institutions, I know that you're from Pan-African countries, you span the whole entire continent. Tell me if your institutions felt the same issues that Desiree has explained here with these questions and challenges. In the chat, can you say that we had the same experience? A big yes from Christine. And please put in chat if you feel like you had the same experience as what Desiree has explained here, where during COVID, you ended up having to put a lot of things online, and maybe you didn't have the training that you wanted with your faculty to be able to do that in a way that made online learning interesting and helpful for people. So just to express, the same thing happened all over the world, of course, as things shut down for COVID. Even where I am, I work for Arizona State University, but I live in Southern California. And during COVID, I was actually tasked with training faculty how to put things online. And they had the exact same experience that Desiree was explaining here so well. They put everything online, so all of their content went online, but they didn't know how to interact with the students. So they felt like it created a barrier. When you're in face-to-face classes, it's easy to know, you can ask your students questions, they get to respond to your questions. It's easy to see that they're following along. But in an online environment, it takes very specific tools and strategies to be able to see this online learning take place with your students, to be able to get to know your students. So a little bit of what I'm going to do today is explain, some of the things that I look for to make online learning more interactive. So we're going to go about that. We'll look at some of the constraints, as Desiree was mentioning, some of the things that happen, things that you need to think of as you're choosing tools that support online learning. And one really positive thing that I want to say that has come from COVID is, so many people put content online, and that's actually the first step, is to digitize your content so that people can then download it online. So you have that first step already. Now it's just adding that layer of interactions and capabilities so that you can know that the learning is taking place online. So that's what we're going to go through a little today, just with fair warning. And if it's okay, I'm going to start my presentation in just a moment. We'll start a little early. I will give you a little fair warning that you are going to be interacting today. And this is a little bit of a stretch sometimes because most people are used to just getting spoken to in an online environment. And that's not what's going to happen today. I'll speak to you briefly. I have a short presentation, and then we will have some breakout rooms where you're going to actually speak with each other. So you're going to be part of the program today, and that's exactly what I want to represent for you, is how to make learning happen in these groups and environments so that learning happens between the community of learners. So we're going to go through that. I'll share my screen now and give, like I said, a very brief presentation about things that I do to kind of help people understand how to choose their online tools. So by way of course, representing what I'm doing, online tools that enhance e-learning and learner experience. That's the title of the presentation. So we're really looking at tools. My doctorate is in learning technologies. And so with that doctorate, I really love to find tools that support learning in a learning environment. Again, I work at Arizona State University, but I do live in California. So when I'm looking for tools, and especially tools for interaction, so again, this is the level up. So now that you have your content online, you want to start interacting with the students and engaging the students. So there are certain things that I look for, and I'm going to go through those first. One thing that I look for is the types of interaction. Moore came up back in 1989. He came up with a model for interactions, and he found that there were 3 things that students online really need to interact with. One is the content. So the content that you want to be able to get the students to interact with the content. When you put your content up on a learning management system, you don't know if they're actually reading it. You don't know if they are actually interacting with that content. So for example, an interaction with content, if I have a video or a reading that I put online, and then I create a small quiz for the students to interact with that content, they get to know more about the content, and it leads them and guides them. So that's an interaction with the content. It's not just putting the content out there, it's actually kind of making them or forcing them to interact with the content through a quiz. So that's one type of interaction. I also look for interactions with the instructor. So the instructor, if the instructor is, for example, even an email can be an interaction with an instructor. So that's one online tool used for interaction with the instructor. Feedback is another thing that an instructor has a direct communication and interaction with a student by giving feedback to, for instance, a paper or something that they've done. So there's interaction with the instructor. And lastly, there is interactions with others. So we like to create a community of learning. And if they can interact with the other people in the class, they end up learning more and they get more invested. So I look for these 3 types of interactions. Sometimes it's just a single interaction, but if they can interact with all of these, so they get to interact with the content, the instructor, and the other students, those are my favorite tools, and I look for those. I also look for tools that help me to see their thoughts. So if I'm in an online environment, I can't necessarily ask them a question and get them to answer immediately. And so if I can get a tool where they have to write down their thoughts and I get to see that on my side, that helps me to know if they're learning or if they need help with anything. So I like to get a tool that will help me to see their thoughts. And there are other considerations that I have as well. One is, am I teaching in a synchronous or asynchronous environment? So synchronous is like this right now, where we are on Zoom and I am able to present to you, you're able to ask me questions, and we're here at the same time. Asynchronous environment means that maybe they are accessing the platform or the interaction at a different time. So they're not at the same time as each other, so asynchronously. And if I look for tools where maybe it works in both scenarios. So I like to do that. I also look for tools where it can help with their, if they have any bandwidth issues. And especially as I work with Africa, there are places in Africa and even times in Africa where maybe their internet connection is low. And so I want to make sure that it's something that can work online and offline. So they can download it. They have to have a little bit of connection, of course. They can download an item and then they can reload it so that, or they can interact with it either offline or in a way that, you know, when they come back online, the interaction is there for me to see as well. So I look for that as I choose my tools too, especially if I have students or learners in low bandwidth environments. I also look at cost. Cost is important because some things are very costly. So I tend to go for the free things if possible, if not the very low charge. So I look at that. And then another thing that I look for is, am I able to support their needs for digital literacy with this? And what do I need to do to support their digital literacy needs? So if they have special needs, I want to make sure that that's part of the way I instruct. And you'll see a little bit of how I do that today. And so we're actually going to use one of these tools that I've chosen that I feel fits all of this. So all of these things that I've represented, we're going to use the collaboration of Google Workspace. And you'll see how we're going to do this. I'm going to walk you through it on a very simple level first. And then I'm going to have you expand so that you're kind of on your own doing this in a breakout room together. So I'm going to actually exit this. We're going to look at a Google document, and I'm going to give you an example of how this is done. I am going to move this presentation for just a moment. And I'm going to give you this Google document. In just a moment, I'm going to put it in the chat. So you'll see the link in the chat. And when I put that link in the chat, you're going to click into it and you'll be on this Google document. If you've never used Google Documents before, please note that it's a collaborative space, meaning all of you will be on this document at once. And I'm going to be able to see what you're thinking. I'm going to be able to meet you here on this Google document, and you'll be able to tell me a little about yourself. For today, I'm going to have you write your name in this left column. And then in the right column, I'm going to have you tell me how you participate in online teaching and learning. So you're going to just give me a brief explanation. I've given you an example here, an example, and this is the way I kind of support your needs for digital literacy. If you've never been here before, this is exactly what you're going to do. You're going to write your name and then give me the example. I train faculty how to teach online, and I teach English and French courses. That's me. So you get to know me a little bit. So I'm going to share this, and up here in the right side, I push share. I come down here and I say get link. So it's anyone on the internet with this link can edit. I copy this link and you'll see it in your chat. You should see it now. So if you go to the chat, I want you to click on that link and it's going to bring up this environment. And you'll see right here, I know that someone has clicked on it because we have just a little icon showing me that someone has clicked on this. And so when you come in, again, you're going to put your name here in the left side. Now, notice here, so we have a person, Etobe. You're going to want to actually go to a different place. And this is kind of confusing because there are a lot of people in this environment. So you can scroll down and pick something that's a little bit further down and start to write your name. If you see that someone is typing in a space, try to get a different space for yourself. And I'll give you just a minute to do that. It takes a little time to get in there and start typing. So again, the question is, how do you participate in online teaching and learning? And this can be the classes that you teach or the way that you are supporting online teaching and learning if you're an administrator or staff. And please feel free to write in French as well. Hmm. Now remember, the link is in the chat. So if you haven't come on here yet, you'll want to practice here first, because you will be coming over into your own breakout room with other people, and you'll want to know at least how to do this. Now, again, you can scroll down on this document and find any empty space. There should be empty spaces below as well. I love this. The first time people use it, sometimes they start to get, you know, it takes a little moment to be able to get your space in the right place and be able to not type over each other. So, but I'm learning a lot from you. So it looks like we have people who are teaching on Zoom, which is very helpful. So that's good. We have people who are training teachers in online pedagogy. That's fantastic. Juvenal and Etobe. I use WhatsApp to share ideas on a topic as a group. So WhatsApp, and that's something that I'm not as well versed in. And so it's always fun for me to learn from people who are using WhatsApp to teach. So I would be able to learn from you a little bit on that, Bikunda Brian. So you learn from experts, Winnie, fantastic. So Jane, you're developing an online course for the AFROHUN and OHW academies. That's fantastic. And I don't know, Jane, is this a course that is how to teach online, or is it a course where they can then take that course and teach it themselves?
No, it's for students to take a course on outbreak investigations. Fantastic.
Thank you, Jane. So many courses on Zoom. Cha, Cristela, very good. And Theonest, it's always nice to see you here. Thank you. I actually know Theonest. Assistant lecturer, and apart from that, e-learning champion. He trains academicians how to develop online modules and train students and teachers how they can use different LMS. Fantastic. Financial accounting in a blended approach, Richard, great. And then Monique, you train people and experts in online teaching, very good. Jafet Kileo, I teach epidemiology. That's great. And then Panina, support staff online, teach online, load content online, use of Moodle, WhatsApp, Google Forms, and Zoom. Excellent. Very good. And let's see, it looks like Eliane said, est-ce normal que quand on clique sur une case déjà enseignée, que l'outil accepte? Yes. So if you click where someone else is typing, So here he's asking, is it normal that when you click on a space within the Google document where someone else is typing, you can type too? Yes. And so you always want to try to find your own unique space so that you're not typing over someone. And that's a good thing to get to know about Google Documents, is that's how that happens. And hopefully for the translators, I translated that all right. So this is great that you were able to get on here and go through and at least try your handout in this. So this is one way of interacting. And again, it kind of goes through those things that I suggested before. We're talking about online learning. And so you're interacting with the content. I get to see it. So you're interacting with me. You get to interact with other students in that you get to see what they're typing as well. So that's what I really like about the Google platform, is the way that we can share and collaborate that way. So we're going to go to the next level now. And we're going to do the same thing with another example. So I'm going to give you in just a moment a breakout room Google Workspace. And you're going to go into that breakout room and you're going to share a little bit more with each other. The breakout rooms are not open yet. I'm going to tell them when to open the breakout rooms. And before they open the breakout rooms, I'm going to give you a Google document, but I want to read through that Google document first. So the first thing we're going to do is read the instructions of what you're going to do in that breakout room. And then you're going to, we'll teach you how to select your breakout room. And you're going to go into, if you're English speaking, you'll choose groups 1 through 4. So you'll choose either 1, 2, 3, or 4. You'll be able to see how many people are in those groups. Try to find a group that has fewer people. So we want to have about 4 or 5 people each group. So you will choose, again, English, it's 1 through 4. If you're French speaking, you'll choose group 5 and you'll go into group 5. And then you're going to find the group page that coordinates with your breakout room number. So here's a description, or I'll show you what that looks like. And I'm going to show it in both, I'm going to try to show it in both French and English here. So give me just a second so that I can get it. You can see the instructions in both French and English. So if you're in English, you're going to choose, give me just a second to get this in the right space. There we go. So if you're going in English, you're going to choose the group page. You'll notice that you have a lot of pages here when you get in this, and I'll share this link in just a moment. If your groups 1 through 4, for instance, if you're in breakout room 3, and that's your choice, you're going to scroll down on this page until you get to group 3 here. All right, so group 3 is where you're going to interact with everyone else in that group. You'll turn on your microphone so that you can talk to each other. The first thing you're going to do, and I have the explanation over here in French as well, you're going to spend 2 or 3 minutes just getting to know each other, because it's nice to know the other learners that you're working with. The person with the shortest family name is going to go first, so that we have a model of who goes first. And then that person will call on the next person to be able to introduce themselves, so that it's not quiet in the room. We want to make sure you have a leader in that group. And then you're going to spend 10 to 13 minutes talking about and listing technologies you have used or have seen used to help students interact. So you're going to talk about things that you've used. I noticed on that previous page that some of you have used Zoom, some of you have used WhatsApp, and there are maybe other technologies that you have used or seen used that you will be able to list on this. So you can share the technologies. You'll come to this sheet over on the left side, you'll write the name of the technology. If you can, you'll also check mark off. So you'll see these little check marks here. You'll check mark what types of interactions it allows. For instance, Zoom might allow for all 3. Something as simple as even email might allow for instructor. The students get to interact with the instructor. Something like WhatsApp, you can tell us which ones of the interactions that goes with here, and then give a brief explanation as well. If you can also give us, for example, here, if I type something like Padlet, people who know me know that I like to use Padlet. You can also put a link to it if you like by just highlighting it, coming up to this space and pushing here on the link. And then you can add a link if you want to send us directly. So you'll notice that I've done that here with Google Workspace. We have a link where you can actually go out and see what Google Workspace is about. So, and I saw in the chat, Desiree, you've asked how to get into the group. I'm going to explain that now. So for the first moment, at least, I want to share this link. So I'm coming up to the share space. I want to make sure that everyone can edit that link, and I'm going to copy it. So the first thing is to find yourself in that space. So in the chat, click on the link that's in the chat, and you're going to be able to find this document. So that's the very first thing that you're going to do. So again, in the chat, you should be able to find the link, and I see a few people are already in there, or a couple. click on that link in the chat and you'll be able to access at least this space. And I'm going to stop sharing for a moment while people get in. And I'm just watching the numbers on that Google document to make sure that there are enough people getting in there. I see about 12 people in there, 13. So again, if you're not in there yet, in the chat, you'll see the link to that document and you'll be able to get into the document. Now, Ken is nicely, we have a great IT person. So Ken is going to open breakout rooms for us. So Ken, if you can open those breakout rooms. If you're English speaking, you should be able to see, so he's opened the breakout rooms. If you can't see a little thing that comes up just yet that says breakout rooms, at the very bottom of your Zoom screen, you should see something that says breakout rooms. You can click on that and you'll be able to see the different breakout rooms that are there. If you're English speaking, choose breakout room 1 through 4. You can do that by just clicking on the word join and you'll be able to join that breakout room. And I see that people are starting to enter. Fantastic. If you are French speaking, group 5 will be your space. So please go to group 5 if you're able to. And I've seen some people are in there. And if you are having a hard time, Ken is going to assign you to a group to go in and be able to do this. Now, again, when you get to your space, so when you join your group, make sure you scroll down to whichever group number you have. So for instance, if you are in group 3 or breakout room 3, go to the group 3 page and that's where you're going to collaborate. And now some of you are being assigned a group. If you're assigned a group and you can just push on that little space, you should be able to join the group. So you have to actually click on the button to be able to join that group. So Alain, Rose, Speranza, Tegan, Victor, you'll want to join your groups. Looks like Elizabeth as well. Penina and Samba, you as well. Makumbi. Very good. And if you have questions, if you're still here and you have questions, feel free to unmute your mic. You can ask questions.
Someone would like to know how to go to the chat, how to access the chat.
Oh, the chat. Okay, perfect. If you look at the very bottom of your Zoom screen, so you have to be able to see the Zoom screen. So where my face is, at the very bottom, there is a little space that says chat. So you can hover at the bottom. You might not see the icon until you put your cursor down to the bottom and you see chat. Does that help? I'm seeing more people join. Fantastic. And let's see, Rose. Oh, good. Rose was able to go in. Alain. All right, and because there's still a recording going on, I'll explain a little bit of what I'm doing. So I'm watching what's going on within the Google document. So I'm able to look at that. I'm also able to look to make sure that people are in their rooms. It looks like we have a few who haven't been assigned just yet. Let me see. Or not joined.
I think the two remaining interpreters, Abby and Sarah.
Perfect. Okay. And if the interpreters want to go into their respective groups, it's fine, or they can stay here. Either way, there is, because these are separated by languages, they don't necessarily need to be in the space unless they can answer questions. Perfect. From my side, because this is being recorded and I want to make sure you have this recorded, I can watch what's going on within the space when they start to actually put things into the space. You know, at first it's just introductions, but I can see exactly what they're typing. I can even ask questions about what they're typing. I can go in and make comments on what they're saying. So that's kind of a nice aspect of this, is I get to watch this. I can also, and I might in just a moment after some of their introductions, I kind of like to go over and go into their breakout rooms to see if they have any questions. If I see someone struggling a little bit, I will go into the breakout rooms to see what types of questions they might have as they're working through. And Ken, I noticed that there's a countdown of minutes up there. I don't know if it's possible to raise that just a little bit. If not, it's okay.
Okay, I'll raise the minutes to, should I add 5 more minutes?
Yeah, let's add probably 3 to 4 more minutes. So maybe make it 11 or something. Just people, sometimes it takes, especially if it's the first time they're in, it takes them a minute just to figure out what it's all about. So, we'll add just a few minutes.
I think there's a request in from group 1. They ask for help.
Perfect. I'll go into group 1. Thank you. But I'll broadcast. So I'll broadcast a message to say that it's closing in about 1 minute.
Okay. All right, I'm closing the rooms. People will come back in about 60 seconds. We have about 10 seconds left and everyone will enter the room.
Perfect. Welcome back. Bienvenue. If you might need to choose your channel again. If you're coming back from the breakout room, maybe you exited the channel. So you might need to choose your channel with the globe at the bottom again to make sure that you're going to get the interpretation that you need. I am so pleased with everything that I'm seeing on this document. So many people have put great things here. I'm going to share my screen for just a moment to show you all of the great things that you've been able to put here. So it looks like you had some conversations in your space and you talked about the different technologies that you used. For instance, I see a lot of WhatsApp and Google types of items. I also see Slack and Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Canvas, Miro, which is one that I enjoyed doing. It's a little more complicated. Emails, of course. I see Moodle, Telegram, Mentimeter, which is kind of a polling software. It's nice. I also see forums, different various assortment of things. And of course, in French as well, we have discussion boards, just resources that they get online, collaborative work, the mind mapping. So mind mapping is one as well. And then just in general, the online learning. So you've put several things here and I really appreciate what you've done. The next thing I want you to do is to notice, so scroll through again. So if you're not on the document anymore, I'm going to copy the link and I'm going to put it back in the chat. So it's the same document that you've had already, but I'm going to show you something that you can do now so that even though you're finished with the actual breakout rooms and projects, you can come in and comment on other people. And for example, right here, I can highlight this and you'll notice that over on the side, I have add comment and I can comment on this specific one. So I can say, there's I like to use discussion boards too, right? So I can come in and comment. And I can do different things. So you're interacting again, not only with the instructor, but you can interact with others as well. So if you want to scroll through and say, oh, I've never heard of Mentimeter. How do you use Mentimeter? You can put that as a little comment right on this side. And maybe you can follow up with that person later. So it becomes a nice format for interacting with each other. I'm interested, how did it go for you? And you can put in the chat, was it confusing? Was it easy? Did it help you? Did you like it? Put some comments in the chat as about your experience with the Google document that you used. Or feel free to unmute your mic if you want. You can unmute as well. Was it easy? Was it difficult? Tell me in the chat.
Oui, bonjour, madame.
Hi, Desiree.
Yes, madam. Good morning, good afternoon. Can I speak?
Yes, of course.
Alors, on a un problème d'audition, je vous entends pas.
We have a problem of the sound. I can't hear you. Can I give my opinion?
Can he hear? So I'm speaking.
Alors, les difficultés que j'ai eues.
The problem that I had personally to do online learning was that of infrastructure like electricity. During the same session, we had power cuts. Then the internet connection was also unstable. Those were two major problems. Obviously, both with the students and the teachers. Obviously.
Very good.
There's another problem that I talked about in my presentation. I do not have the skills to conduct these online lectures. We just put a document online. we did not have the technical means to work on it so that the students can exploit it. So we just put it online. I think this is important. There's also the availability of students. They are not disciplined. Everyone comes at their own time. So I stop there to let others also speak.
Yes, and thank you, Desiree. These are difficult, and I'm actually going to, before others want to speak about those same issues that you had, because they are issues that I think everyone has felt a little bit with this. I do want to say that with Google especially, there is an opportunity to work offline. And I will give you this one's in English. So in the chat, I'm sharing the English, how to work offline. And I will also give it to you. I believe I have it in French as well. Give me just a second to get it in French. It will take me a second to find it in French. There we go. Copy link. So you'll have to forgive me, I don't have my French keyboard on, so I don't have the accent marks, but the second link is in French. This is how to work offline with your students. And for a quick moment, I'm going to show you how to create a Google document so that you can see what it looks like to create the Google document. And then students can work offline with this Google document as well. So I'm here in my, if I have a Gmail account, so anyone with a Gmail account has access to Google Documents, which is really nice. I'm going to share my screen quickly here. So, and I'm going to try to do this both in the French version and in the English version. So as long as I have a Google or Gmail account, I have access to the Google document space. I just have to type, and I'm putting this in the chat so you can see it. If I type drive.google.com, I have access to Google Drive. I can create something. So if I want to create something new, I go here to new, and I can create documents, spreadsheets, and presentations. In French, it's nouveau. And same thing, documents, spreadsheets, and presentations over here. Unfortunately, it does not translate that very well. And then when I create, for instance, a document, I can share it just by coming to this link. I'll give it a title. And then here, I want to make sure that everyone can edit this when I copy the link, and I want anyone with the link to be able to do it. So I always like to have it, anyone with the link can edit. I copy the link, and then I can put it in a chat, I can share it. I can also put it in, for instance, Canvas or Moodle as a link. And then people can work offline in the spaces, and then it will, they can work as collaborators. It can go online as soon as they get into an online space. So there is a way to work offline. So if you have low connectivity, Desiree, or any of the rest of you, there is a way to work offline with Google Documents, and then all of your things that you're working on will upload as soon as you get back into good internet connection. So I did want to say that and make sure that people knew that this does have offline capabilities. Thank you for that, Desiree. Are there other questions about that, or do you want to respond to Desiree's issue of the fact that, you know, students aren't as disciplined maybe because they aren't coming to class in the same way?
You could give a comment on that as we watch if there's any other question coming through.
So, oh, you want me to give a comment? For me, it's very important to make very strict deadlines for students and to consistently reach out to the students. So because you no longer have that attendance thing going on, right? So they're no longer attending, you don't see them in front of you. How are other ways that you see that they're interacting with the material? And that's where this interaction comes in. When I can see their brain, I know that they're there. So for instance, if you were my students, I would be able to say, so based on this document, I'm going to share my screen in just a moment. If you were my students, and it was important to me that you participate, I would be able to see your names here and I would know exactly who participated in this activity. And if it's a point-based activity, then they're more likely to be able to participate or want to participate because they know that it's important for them to pass the class. And so these interactions become an important part of keeping the students responsible for their learning and making sure that they are interacting with the content in the way that they're supposed to. So that's my response, but other people might have responses as well.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Yes, any comments? Yes.
Yes,
You can either raise your hand or type in the chat to comment about what Dr. Kim has presented. She has ended by showing us how to create that document. And,
yes.
So we can now go and create it. Then we.
Speranza, you had a question?
I wanted to ask. You are saying that
you called out?
Speranza is talking, Richard.
Yes.
Maybe she's on the English.
Yes, I'm saying that.
French channel.
Yes, yes.
Professor Ndege, we don't hear you well. What's?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Speranza, I can hear you. Richard might be on a different channel.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, yes. I wanted to you have seen that. Okay, you have seen that you have. I like your presentation very much. Thank you very much for that presentation. You've said that you can be able to monitor the students when they are in class by checking their names at the side of that document that you have shown. The students are the one to type in their names. They are the one to put their names there so that you can, so that now you are able to know who has gone in, or how do you know who puts the names of the students on that document?
Mm-hmm. This is true. So they can cheat and put their friends' names if that's what you're talking about, Speranza. So they can actually. So for me, I have them type their own names here, and then I coordinate it with a list of participants in the class. So I look at all of the people who attended the class, make sure their name is on that list. Just by going, for instance, here on Zoom, if I'm in Zoom, I can go down to the participants list and see that you were all here. So if it's a synchronous session, I can see that you were in class and you put your name on this document and you filled out whatever task I gave to you. So that's one way that I would be able to grade your participation.
Okay, that is okay. Only if you are using Zoom, isn't it?
This is if I'm using Zoom, or I can post it. For instance, if I want to post it on the learning management system, Moodle or Canvas or Blackboard, whatever you use, I can also post it and it can be done asynchronously. So students can then fill it out. Are there cheaters? There are cheaters. Some people will fill out for their friends. So it's not 100% guaranteed that they're filling it out for themselves. But for the most part, people are getting in and putting their own information on there.
Wow, that's nice. I've liked that. Yes, thank you.
Good, thank you. And I do want you, I hope that you can keep that, the document that I gave to you, because it does have a list of several different types of, I'm using Google today because we only really have time for one thing, but there are several different types of collaborative and interactive technologies that people have listed. So I hope that you can go through that document that was shared before, and you can look at the things that people shared. Some of them are very interesting. A lot of people like Mentimeter or Mural or some of the others. Other questions that might be there?
There does not seem to be any other questions. Did you say you go back to the slides? Is there something on the slides that you wanted to show?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, I think you can do that. You can go back the slides. We have at least some 7 minutes to the end of this.
Perfect. All right, so I have 7 more minutes. Keep asking questions if you'd like. So I have other things that we could, and we don't have a lot of time to deal with it today, but there are other types of interactives that you can do through Google or through other types of things. There are also other tools that are usable, and I'll make this into a presentation so it's a little bit bigger for you. So tools can be like posting. I really like to get tools where people can go on a board and post. You saw some of those in that document that people shared with each other in your groups. I use Miro, but Mural is another one. So these types of things, people can get on and post, and we can play around with those types of things. It's nice to be able to see what the students are thinking in different environments. So it's kind of fun with that. Oh, it's not advancing for me. Give me just a second. Polling, I always like to have some kind of good polling software. That gives me a lot of information about students in a very quick way. Some polls, like Zoom polls, if we're doing, this experience of synchronous instruction, I really like to have polling as a capability so I can see if students are following me. I also use something called Poll Everywhere. And if it's tied to my university, that also gives me an idea of who is participating. So if Poll Everywhere is integrated with my learning management system, it can tell me that a certain number of people with their names, it tells me who participated in the polling activity. So I like that. I use other types of collaborative software for things that are more creative. I like the Adobe products, and Perusall is one where people can interact around an article or something like that. And I have a bunch of others. Richard wanted me to share this list here. It's actually, let me hurry and grab there we go. I'll put this in the chat. This is just a quick look at so many tools that can be used, and hopefully it translates well into French. Here is a list of hundreds of tools that people use, and some of them are very good for interactions, but these all support learning at some level. So this is, it can be helpful just to look through the list and see some of the things that you really feel like you need in your class. Again, I go through, what's the most interactive for certain things. Let me hurry and answer some of the questions. Can you interact with Google Doc with someone who has no Google account? Yes. So Google opens for people who don't have a Google account as well. So that's kind of a nice feature with Google. Another question from Eliane. So in between the three interactions that I'm discussing, so with content, with the instructor, and with other students, which one is for metacognition? I say that any of them could be for metacognition. It really depends on the prompt that you're giving. For example, with the content, if I want them to, metacognitively think about the content, I'll ask very specific prompts and questions such as, why am I sharing this content with you? What makes it important? And how do you feel about this content? Do you understand it or do you not understand it? So really it's more about the prompt with the interaction rather than whether one type of tool fits metacognition better. It's more about the prompt, if that makes sense. Other questions? And feel free to put them in the chat, or you can put them in, you can raise your hand and talk if you'd like.
So what I've learned from what you've said is that I can get many Google tools when I use Drive, right? Is that go to Drive?
Yes, so the drive.google.com will give you access to all of the tools. Mm-hmm. All
right. And one trick I have learned is that if you can also go to a YouTube video and helps you to learn how to use some of these tools.
Yes, any one of these tools. So when you come here to Nous or Nouveau in French, you'll be able to use any of these tools. So documents, sheets, and slides, that's your presentations. Or there are even others like there's a Jamboard is a bulletin board that's shareable with people. I have an example of it today. So if we wanted to come here, this is a Jamboard where we can post things, and you can do it in English and in French. People can post, they can put pictures, things like that. So it creates an interactive bulletin board for posting. So that can be helpful as well. So there's that. Questions? Oh, so this is a great question. Thank you, Brian. Is it possible to cater for the visually impaired? Your Google products typically have, like in your documents, as long as you are using good heading features. For example, here, this is my blank document, you really want to work on using your headings well, because people with visual impairments need a screen reader to be able to read. So these headings will lead the screen reader to go to the right sections for them. So, and it's something probably to look up. We don't have time for a full accessibility discussion here right now, but if you can use these headings, the people with screen readers will be able to go to the right section based on what the heading is telling them to do. So it's more about the creation of the product. The product itself supports accessibility, but the person who creates it needs to be aware of how to create that for people with visual impairments. That's a great question. Other questions? I think we have one more minute.
Yeah. Yeah, let me ask one more question.
Yes.
Okay. Which from your experience, which tools, interactive tools have you used that you find quite easy to use, so that one can be able to adopt the easiest ones?
So Google is fairly easy, but you do have to, you want to practice with it first, because the first time you teach with any new technology, it's like anything that you're learning that's new, you have to do it slowly. So I would do something very simple first and practice first, make sure you know how to share the links, what will happen with students, and how to, kind of do some tech support things. Polling, I think polling is probably the easiest thing to do. Google, so Zoom has its own polls, but any kind of polling service, that's where you get quick information from your students. It's easily digestible as a teacher to be able to see if students are understanding with polls, but I really like polls. Zoom polls are okay. I use Poll Everywhere. It's a little bit limited in the free version. So if you have large classes, that's some of the constraint, is the free version only gives you, I think, up to 50 people to be able to respond. So that can be a little bit of an issue, but I really like to have polls. I think that's the easiest one to use if I have to give a single answer.
Okay.
Thank you. And Eliane asks, so in the chat, Eliane asks if these are secure, if they're free. And that is another great question, another constraint that you might have. Most of them will come with security statements, like what they do with it. So you do want to read your security statements well. One thing we have at our institutions is usually we have a group that will go through the licensing. So if our institution purchases one of these technologies, they'll go through the licensing and make sure that they're secure for students and student data is not being used elsewhere. And that can be an issue. I know, some of our refugees have had issues with using WhatsApp because they're afraid it's tied to kind of a Facebook space and they're afraid it's being shared. With Google, we have actually Google that is tied to our institution. So it's gone through the security protocols to make sure that they are, that they're good and they're usable. But you do have to be careful because it is student data. Sometimes you have to be careful with what's being shared. So that's a great question.
So thank you, Kim. I think we have to close it here. You can give one final statement. You can make one final statement.
Yes. So we have, especially with that link and with other things, hopefully they'll be able to share these slides with you because I do have some links on these slides. Yes. Really, it's just choosing one first. Don't get overwhelmed. Choose one simple one first. Start with that. See how it works. I like polling personally. And then build up if you can. I really like the collaborative nature of Google Documents, but practice first with your friends a little bit if you can to make sure that it works so that you're more confident when you go into the actual instruction aspect of teaching with these interactives. But interactions will increase the learning in such a great way. I hope that you'll be comfortable and able to use them. And thank you for letting me participate.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Kim, for that. I know that we shall really call you back sometime because I know you have as many as 100 tools, and today was just the beginning of this. Yeah, you've given us some, like, at least one thing you have helped teach us is that Google has very many tools and that we can learn to. I've loved that about it. And we have tried to interact, we have felt the interaction. Maybe just in half a minute, allow me to call upon Desiree to comment as to whether, to some extent, we have answered his question. Desiree, can you just comment to what extent we have tried to answer the question?
Merci, madame. Merci pour le groupe de m'avoir associé à cette activité. Oui, j'ai eu
Thank you for associating me to this activity. Yes, I got specific answers to these tools and the interaction. I'm going to try them out. And I'm sure there are some networks which are free and we shall be working slowly anyway.
Okay, thank you so much, Desiree. Thank you so much, Kim, for making this a very lively session. I thank the audience for this. Please register in the link, register, because you are going to have a certificate at the end of this session. So let me hand over to Christine. Christine, back to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, before I make final announcements, I just want to re-echo that in case you want to claim a participant or participation certificate, please click the link that has been shared. It is in English, but also in French, and complete it. It takes less than 5 minutes. That data is very important for us to modify these sessions moving forward. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, allow me to thank each one of you for actively participating during this interactive session. It was really interactive. Thank you. But also allow me to thank Dr. Kim and Dr. Desire so much for the job well done. You have really engaged us. We have learned quite a number of things. Thank you so much. And just to re-echo what Richard said, I'm sure as we move along, we may want to have you back because this is a topic that I'm sure we need, but also we have not exhausted. I also want to mention that there are a number of people that still had questions and comments. Feel free to share them here. Even if we don't answer them now, we are going to answer them on the different platforms. Just to remind you that we have Slack, we have a community of practice Slack, we have also WhatsApp group. This community of practice has a WhatsApp group, but also an email list. So in case you are not a part of any of those, please inbox me. We shall be able to add you. We shall be able to add you either on WhatsApp or on Slack, but even on the email. So as mentioned earlier, we would really love to have as many people as possible within your networks, in your universities, to get to learn these things. So please feel free to share with them the Zoom link. The Zoom link you've used today is going to be the same Zoom link that we are using over and over again, share across. And I just want to let us know that our next session in April is going to be on the 27th of April. That is the last Wednesday of the month. But along the way, we shall keep you updated as time unfolds. I should also mention that we are going to share with you all the materials, the recordings in English, in French, but also the PowerPoint presentation. This will be shared on the different platforms, as I mentioned earlier. So once again, inbox me in case you want to be added onto those platforms. Thank you very much. Let me also thank the members that have been cooking all this in the kitchen. Richard, thank you very much. Ibrahim, Rose, and everyone, thank you. So colleagues, we really thank you for joining, and we pray that you log on again next time. Thank you and thank you. In case we log off here, you can share with me an email with your WhatsApp number. I am going to put, for those that do not have my email, I'm going to paste my email here so that you drop me an email, because I know once we drop off, the data here may not be seen again. Thank you and see you once again. The planning team, please stay. We have a small meeting after this. Thank you and God bless you.
Maybe Ken can put some colleagues in the waiting room, then we can start.
Thank you, Elaine, for being here. Thank you, Brian. Credo, thank you. Pasco, happy to have you today. Nicholas, you are our, I don't know what to say, but you are the man of this session. Thank you for always being early.
Brian.
Pasco, Brian, please, thank you. Consolata Kirigia, thank you for being here today. All right. So we are going to have a meeting. So